So I've got all the dip sockets that are required in place. Remember that these are spare 16, 14, and 2 spare 8 pins, so I didn't put sockets in. There are 2 dip switches on here, so you don't want to put sockets there. I did some more looking at the schematic and the parts list here, and there was this set of diodes I didn't address originally. Looking at the schematic, I believe these 4 diodes will have to do with the battery charging circuit or steering, along with this 1 watt 100 ohm resistor. Those all seem to be in, that resistor is sitting right here, those diodes are here. It all seems to me to have to do with charging a battery, if you've got a rechargeable battery. I don't intend to be using the battery backup. I don't plan to install these components, so I'm not going to worry about those or even that 100 ohm 1 watt resistor. There is a diode here, we can get this on frame, across the voltage regulator. I'm trying to determine exactly what that's for. It may be to keep the battery from leaking back through into the system, I think, maybe. Not really sure. That's kind of odd because it's reverse biased sitting there when there's no power on the system. And then there's a diode here on this little reset chip, and I know I don't have this chip in my stock. Not sure if I'm going to need this reset circuit or not. I'll have to look. Because system reset, let's see, RAM reset. So there's a RAM reset. VCC pull-up resistor. I'm not sure why he has such an elaborate reset here. And I'm not sure why reset coming in off the bus, well, it's not wired up here, coming off the bus wouldn't have worked. So there's a reason he did this. I will worry about that later. So with that kind of talk through, I've got all the IC sockets in place. The notches are the correct location. I was happy to find this open frame design for all of the sockets. I only had one 32 pin socket left. I'm going to have to order some. They're all in place. And I think the thing I'm going to move on to next is going to be the 0.1 microfarad ceramic caps. Looks like I need 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. As always, I have a bit of a supply of caps. The pin spacing on these is on 0.1s, so these guys won't work. They've got a wider spacing. Let me look through here and find something I like. All of these except for this bin here, which is 0.2 microfarads, all of these are 0.1. I can probably pick out of there enough. Again, I like them all to match. Actually, these look like they'll work well. And this is a collection over a lot of years. The only problem is the leads are bent on those. Keep digging here. Wonder if I have enough of this style. There's a mixed style in here. The bodies look a lot alike. That will just drop through. If I can get the pins to line up, it should just drop directly through to flush, and it does. So the question is, can I get enough out of there? I don't really want to use like these little discs like this. I could. And I think there's actually a whole mix in here of 0.1s as well. It's just the lead spacing on all of these isn't on the 0.1 centers. Well, let's see what I can dig out of here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. 7. Sorry, I'm sorting these off camera. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I needed somewhere near 20 caps total. 18, yeah, there's plenty of them in here to do this. So let me get these back in. And of course, one of them jumped into the wrong pocket. Not that that doesn't happen all the time, but it'll be easy to sort out there. We can just go through here and drop in caps. Trying to decide which glasses will be better for this. So I've got the 104 marking on the cap facing out. Of course, I'd like them all to be the same. Again, just a little bit neater construction, a little bit cleaner. Not that anybody would ever notice this but me, but again, it's my build and my choice how detailed to be or not to be. Some ways it might have been better to put these in first, just because they're a little shorter than the sockets. That's okay. The 104 marking is 0.1 microfarad on these. Which is what we want, little 0.1 microfarad ceramic despiking caps. Oh, that's the wrong lead width, is why that didn't want to go in. I am looking at the silk screen and all these as well as I put them in place, just to be sure. Oh, that's another one that's too wide. My sorting job wasn't as good as I thought. When I was much younger and completely broke, I did actually reclaim ceramic caps off boards. Even though they're really cheap, if you can't afford $2 for capacitors because you're young and not making a lot of money, you do what you got to do. That's a 0.1. Those are a couple of tantalums. There's a 0.1 right there. And poor Rosie. 0.1 there. Jumper, 0.1 right there. We all hear you, little girl. I know. The only thing they can offer me for her is cough syrup to suppress the cough. I mentioned it before, it's collapsing trachea, common in Chihuahuas and some smaller dogs. She's part Chihuahua. It's not really life-threatening. Shouldn't affect her lifespan. Her just trachea is collapsing a little bit. She thinks she's choking when she's really not. And there's a distinctive cough that you've probably heard. We've been to the vet many trips, and just the cough syrup's about all they can offer. I've researched it. I'm just looking over the board to make sure I've got all of these on the board I wanted to get on the board. Let's get some tape over the majority of them so they don't fall out. Not really relying on the tape to hold them flush. I need some more tape. It's just to kind of keep them in place when I flip the board over. That one's going to, of course, fall out there. Get some tape over him. I think that gets everybody covered up. Now it's just kind of a matter of going through and soldering all these up. Pull them all flush, and lay the leads out a bit. If I can get a hold of the leads just to kind of hold them flush in place. I just think it looks a little neater. Some people would recommend doing this a couple caps at a time rather than all at once as I'm doing here. Again, that's, I believe, personal preference, what you're used to. The odds of missing a solder joint increase with this many leads poking out. And of course, this sea of leads can make it difficult to get the soldering pencil tip down in there. I'm happy with that. I'll solder a few, trim leads, solder a few, trim leads, and the glasses I have on, the focal length is about 6 inches from what I'm working on, which makes this interesting because I can't really see like the little brass tip cleaner there very clearly. Boy, that did not create a pretty joint there. Neither did that. The leads on these capacitors are fairly tarnished, so I'm relying on the flux in the solder. This is a high quality triple core solder to kind of clean that up for me. Well, I'll stop the recording here. You don't need to sit and watch me work all the way through this, and we'll come back with whatever I'm going to do next. So with all the ceramic caps in place, and I'm happy with them, it's time to move on in the instructions to the tantalum caps. I've plucked a number of tantalums out of my little tantalum and trimmer cap box here. Only need 4, but I just grabbed the number out of there. So there's 4 tantalums. Remember that tantalums are polarized. And I need to look closer at these for the markings. So the line on the cap, I think it's always positive, but I'm going to double check here. Positive. And positive long lead is positive. There's 433 microfarad tantalums, and I actually had 33 microfarad tantalums. So we'll just drop them into place. Both of the long leads should be to the top. They are. And there's 2 more tantalums someplace. So that's C1, C2, C20, and C5. C5 is down here. Looks like it's just a bit of bulk, maybe, on power supply rail down there. And there's going to be one more. Those are LEDs. Looking for another circular footprint, and so far I haven't spotted it. Oh, there it is. And on these two, the long lead should be in the direction that it is. So, oh, cap didn't get put back in the box. I'm going to go ahead and solder up one lead on each of these. Just check to make sure they're square. These are new old stock tantalums. In that box I actually had a number of tantalum pools, which is rather dangerous. Tantalums do age and like to fail explosively. He's nice and square. They all look square enough to make me happy. I'll solder the other side. Oh, this one's onto ground here. The large ground plane, although it looks like he put a heat relief on there. I'm probably out of frame there. As happy with that joint as I could be. I think there's too much solder there. A little too much solder on that connection. Let's see if I can lift some of that off there with a and one more visual inspection, positive to positive. I know I've triple and quadruple checked this, but yeah, they're in. I have a couple times in my life got tantalums in backwards, and like I said, they do fail pretty spectacularly as they explode. The 4 tantalums are in. Put these other 3 away. And I'll want to put this one away. Wherever that loose point 1 ended up, there it is. And I'll be back when we move on to the next piece.